We study the lives of great Christian men and women from history because they have gone before us and they have blazed a trail. The example of their lives really sets a pace and a pattern. As they followed Christ, so should we follow their example. We see in historical theology how systematic theology is lived out and the effect that it has upon the times in which they live. We don't want a theology that simply is kept within the confines of the walls of the church. We want a theology that lives and impacts believers, impacts their worship of God, impacts how they live on a daily basis, and really impacts the affairs of the world in which they live. There's a very direct parallel, corollary, that we can draw between the Puritans and where we find ourselves today as Christians in the 21st century, because they lived in a time of political and judicial upheaval, so much so that they were censored, they were forbidden to even preach in public settings, they were ejected from their pulpits in 1662. And so now more than ever, the example of their lives and the pattern of their living is strategic for every Christian today. Revival. When you look in the Bible and when you study historically, revival is a concentrated time in which God moves swiftly to awaken believers to a restored passion for God. The word revival indicates that there was already life and it has grown dormant. And in a season of revival, God restores and replenishes the spiritual life of believers, and God works in a concentrated period of time. Martin Lloyd-Jones says, in a time of revival, God does more in 5 minutes than what would have happened in 50 years. Revival, first and foremost, begins with the people of God. It is the people of God turning back to God. And the fruit of that is evangelism. But revival does not begin with unbelievers becoming believers. Revival begins with the work of God in the hearts of His own people. We want to study the lives of these men, not just so that we will have some historical facts, but so that they will rub off on us, so that their lives will have an impact upon our lives. It's really a form of discipleship, whereby they end up discipling us and influencing us so that we would follow in behind them. So I want you to rub shoulders with these men. I want them to affect you. I want their contagious faith to spread to your life, and for you to be excited for God and for the things of God, just like they were so enthused for the Lord and for the work of His kingdom. May God do that in our lives.